Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Good morning and thank you to the EU for this opportunity to work together on accessible, affordable, clean energy for the present and the future. May I greet Your Excellencies, Ambassador Franz Jessen, Ambassador of the EU, Ambassador Joseph Muller, Austrian Ambassador, Ambassador Asif Ahmad, the British Ambassador, Ambassador John Top Christensen, Danish Ambassador, Ambassador Marian Dirks, the Netherlands Ambassador, Ambassador Luis Calvo, our Spanish Ambassador, Ambassador Massimo Rosigno of Italy, and all our excellencies, we thank you for this opportunity of bonding and assistance and continuing friendship and long-lasting relationship in economics and trade and diplomacy. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our leaders and partners in the Executive Department of the Department of Energy, led by Undersecretary Jesus Posadas, who led the first opening remarks, representing Secretary Pusi. Thank you for christening me with that new name. I'm not sure what it means in Spanish, but I know how we regard it in our language in Filipino, Undersecretary Posadas. Undersecretary Wimpy Fentabella, thank you for that message as well and for showing us the roadmap on the energy roadmap for the next 6 years of the Duterte administration. We'll be working with you not only in your budget, but also in trying to make energy electrification accessible to the most remote areas. Undersecretary Raul Avilos, who comes from a region that is most vulnerable, which is Region 8, from Leyte and the Samar region. And Director Maylene Capongcol is also present here. Director Mario Marasigan, our expert on renewable energy. Attorney Patrick Aquino. I mentioned them because these are people in government, the executives in government, who really are the backbone of the government and the energy sector in the Philippines insofar as government is concerned. So allow me to congratulate the organizers of the 4th EU-Philippine meeting on energy. This meeting could not have come at a better time as the government is currently undertaking a review of the Philippine energy policy. I also welcome the launch of the Access to Sustainable Energy Program, or ASAP, which seeks to assist the Philippine government towards meeting its rural electrification targets through renewable energy and energy efficiency interventions. There are varying accounts on electricity access in the country. The International Energy Agency estimates that 79% of the population have access to electricity, while the World Bank places it at 87.5%. Let us drill down these figures further, and we will discover that across geographic areas, the most impoverished, both in access to electricity and economic opportunities, is in Mindanao. The country's electrification profile shows that 89% of households in Luzon have power, 79% in the Visayas, and a very low 56% in Mindanao. What are these figures telling us? The poor are clearly particularly disadvantaged when we speak of accessing the most basic necessities, including electricity. Most of those who have no access to electricity primarily live in rural areas. While urban electrification stood at 94%, rural electrification in the country stood at a low of 73%. Again, my friends from DOE should update me or clarify this if my figures and statistics today are accurate. According to the DOE, and I quote, the remaining 4.4 million unelectrified households are generally located in the most rural and remote areas of the country, as well as in the outskirts of Metro Manila and Davao City. A study done by UNICEF shows that 6.5 million Filipino children, or almost 2 out of 10 children, are living in homes without electricity. Again, most of the children are from rural areas. Lack of access to electricity is a fundamental issue that keeps our poor in the bondage of poverty. Education needs electricity. Functioning health clinics and pumps for water and sanitation require electricity. The economic life of a community necessitates electricity. Energy drives economic growth, and yet 1.1 billion globally have no access to electricity. The Philippines accounts for 21 million people with no access to electricity. Access to electricity correlates with economic development. People who have no access to electricity are consequently deprived of the opportunities that can help improve their welfare. 11 of the 20 poorest provinces in the Philippines are in Mindanao, including Maguindanao, Bukidnon, Sultan Kudarat, Zamboanga del Norte, Lanao del Norte, North Cotabato. These are the provinces with some of the lowest household electrification rates in the country. In Maguindanao, only 21.8% of households have access to electricity, and in Sultan Kudarat, only 36%. Growth is difficult to imagine without electricity. The Philippine Energy Plan for 2016 to 2030 outlines the target of 100% household electrification by 2020 and tripling of renewable energy installed capacities by 2030. As your chairperson of the Senate Committee on Finance, I fully support these targets, but would hasten to add that these electrification goals would need to be aligned with a low-carbon objective in the energy sector. Energy that does not take into consideration the needs of future generations can only destroy and not build. Energy security and energy access are vital goals, but we should not lose sight of the more compelling goal of ensuring sustainability and resilience as we seek to provide for the basic needs of our people, including electricity. The Philippines is said to be one of the strongest economic performers in the region, but 26 million Filipinos remain poor, with almost half, or a little more than 12 million, still living in extreme poverty. Most of them have no access to electricity. This brings me to the point I made at the onset. Development, progress, and quality of life cannot be the exclusive domain of a few. Progress brings immense opportunities, but unless universal access to electricity is achieved, the prosperity that economic growth aims to deliver will amount to nothing but an empty promise. The theme of your meeting, Electricity for a Better Life, actually captures the whole essence of my message. Deprivation happens when one is denied access to basic needs, including electricity. Destruction, however, happens if electricity is provided without regard for its impact on our environment. Clearly, the sustainable development and energy nexus requires an urgent examination of how the country can tap on clean forms of energy to provide for the region's requirements in a sustainable and inclusive manner. It is for this reason that I welcome the ASEP for this program offers a definitive pathway to universal access for electricity under a sustainable framework. There are 2 points I wish to make as the ASEP is pursued. First, providing a rural poor with access to electricity is really a major challenge. But given technological innovations in energy and the abundance of indigenous energy resources in these areas, achieving universal access to clean energy is actually within our reach. Clean and indigenous energy sources abound in the rural areas. Let us develop these to provide energy access among the poor. Second, it is time for us to walk our talk. We cannot promote a low-carbon future as called for in the Philippine Energy Plan in isolation from the bigger picture of building a sustainable future. As a Filipino, my resolve on this subject is deep and personal. The Philippines bears the brunt of climate change. Depending on the survey, we are either number 3 or even number 1 in terms of the most vulnerable nation in the world. The United Nations ranked our country the 4th in the world among countries hit by the highest number of natural hazards over the past 20 years, many of which are weather-related disasters. Only the uninformed will reject the link between the planet's changing climate and extreme weather events. In the Philippines, earlier estimates indicate that we have some 246,000 megawatts of untapped renewable energy capacity. I believe that failure to develop these capacities would be unforgivable. We need to focus on promoting the growth of the low-carbon economy as a means to create jobs and to curb carbon emissions. All legislation point to this. We have the Renewable Energy Law, we have the Climate Change Law, we have the People's Survival Fund, we have on track the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Measure, which is still pending, which I'm sure is a priority measure that was actually drafted by the Department of Energy. And our annual General Appropriations Act can actually provide for both the general and the special provisions to help the Department of Energy in its energy plan. To further support the country's low-carbon energy thrust, I introduced a bill that will institutionalize policies on energy efficiency and conservation, as mentioned earlier. Energy efficiency has the greatest potential to reduce the level of energy use, thus minimizing environmental hazards emitted by fossil fuel plants, including coal-fired power plants. Allow me now to offer some insights, which I hope you will consider as you undertake the ASEP. First, while it is important to focus on meeting rural electrification targets by means of renewable energy and energy efficiency, let us not forget to train our sights on the bigger goal, which is to improve the livelihood and the living conditions of the poor, particularly those who currently have no access to electricity. As such, it is important that concrete actions that capacitate communities for economic activities are also pursued. Second, let us be sensitive and cognizant of the needs of the communities we want to serve. While it is true that providing access to electricity to these communities will enable them to harness the vast development opportunities that electrification brings, designing solutions would require the cooperation of the community. We just should not provide and deliver the tools to the communities, but actually, or rather, build this with them. Lastly, we should not create a mindset that electricity is free. Instead, let us help create a culture of responsibility among the recipient communities. We are grateful for your kind assistance, but giving requires that we enable and empower communities to assume responsibility, not in the future, but beginning the day we start sitting down with them to discuss the help we want to extend to them. We expect and hope that ASEP will not only cover electrification in the far-flung areas, but also to contribute to the requirements of mainstream RE projects, with a new National Renewable Energy Board, or the NREB, that will be in place. In the Department of Energy Management, I will help provide the necessary platform for you to afford us such kind of support. I know that the NEA budget, or the National Electrification Administration budget for rural electrification, would be 24 billion pesos. We also realize that this can only be done in a span of 4 years till 2020. But perhaps the budget can be adjusted And the good news to the DOE, which I would like to declare today, is I will look into the NEA and the CTO electrification budget and see where ASEP can come in insofar as households, CTO, and barangay electrification. As soon as I see where the loopholes or where to plug the leaks for faster electrification sooner than 2020, perhaps I can double, triple, or augment the NEA budget as long as you show me that the DOE and the NEA has the absorptive capacity to utilize its budget for 2017 and beyond. In short, it is our wish, and it will be concrete action if we work together, both the EU through the ASEP program, the new DOE management, and I as Chairman of Finance, to speed up the process of providing accessible, clean energy to the CTOs, household, who to this day had no access to electricity. And so, while 2020 seems near, and it's just 3 years and a few months away, but considering that these children, these communities, and these families have had no access to electricity all their lives is unthinkable. It is my dream, and only with the EU support and the DOE management can I achieve this dream, that we can speed up the 2020 electrification process by finding the resources within the 3.3 trillion budget, by curbing or eliminating the fact in other agencies and putting it in the provision of providing electricity to the most remote areas in the country, especially in Mindanao. And I am certain that with this kind of support for CTO electrification, with the ASEP program of the EU, with the DOE's absorptive capacity, and with us in Congress, in the Senate, supporting a more aggressive and proactive CTO electrification, we can see less conflict in remote areas in Mindanao and more sustainable economic development. And just allow me to say that there is no contest between a low-carbon economy and a sustainable development and the use of clean, affordable, accessible energy. It is very clear that the energy and sustainable development nexus is actually achievable. So with that, I am very grateful to the European Union for being a friend, for always being with the Philippines and our region during our times of need, during Yolanda, during our times of need for rural electrification, and rest assured that the Philippine government will be with you in our aspiration for a humane, sustainable future for us. Thank you.